Welcome to the Enlighten Up podcast, where I am going to take you into a deep exploration of what it means to exist in this current reality. We are going to raise your vibes, open your mind, expand your heart, and dive deep into the wondrous mysteries and possibilities of this lifetime. There's been a spiritual catalyst that has set in motion the awakening process of many across the globe to return to the knowingness of self and unite what has been separated. Together, we're going to bring light into that darkness. We're going to remember the joy of living. But most of all, we're going to turn up the volume of our own eternal power and do the thing we're here to do. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Enlighten Up podcast. Super happy to have you back with us today because I have a brand new guest to introduce you to. His name is Michael Conflict, and he is the host of the radio show Conflict Radio. And I had the pleasure of being on his show just a month or so ago, and it was a lot of fun. Michael, welcome to the podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you today? Thanks for having me on. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, no, it's today's been great. But there's it feels like the energies are constantly changing, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like the wind's blowing a lot of different ways all the time. But today's a good day, so I'm going to ride with it and we're going to enjoy it. So tell me, how did you get into starting your radio show? Like, how long ago did you start that show?
I guess it's been about 5 or 6 years ago, I suppose, and I didn't really get into seasons when I first started. I just went with it. I think we did 180 episodes in 3 or 4 years, and then I stopped for a year, and then we just started season two, I guess about 6 months ago.
Okay. And so what drove you to start? Like, what was the kind of the driving force behind kicking that off?
I was always interested in what other people were interviewing people about. I loved listening to podcasts. I was always interested in the aliens, UFOs, the ancient aliens, old history, things like that, spirituality. Um, and I would listen to people, and they would have guests on that I enjoyed, and I would follow guests around. You know how you go from podcast to podcast, following certain guests that you liked. And I really didn't like any of the questions, a lot of the questions that were being asked, and I was just getting wanting to ask my own questions. So I just started my own show, and I just used that as a reason to talk to. I basically didn't think anybody was going to listen to it. I just kind of started it so I could reach out to the guests and get them to come on to my show, and I could ask them my own questions. And we started doing that, and we started with Apple iTunes and Spreaker, and eventually moved on to YouTube, and it just kind of took off from there.
Yeah. So it's funny because I remember when I started my podcast, it really was just from this idea of me and my friends were having really funny conversations. We were cracking each other up about our conversations about spirituality because one of my friends was a really big skeptic and just
Hmm.
thought me and my best friend were batshit crazy at times. But at the other, there was a part of him though that was like, but at the same time, I'm so intrigued. And so I thought, why don't we just like record these conversations and start putting them on a podcast? And had no idea 7 years later would be here. But
It happens, right? You just go with it, and you do your own thing, and the goal is you got to try to keep doing your own thing, even the more and more people listen, and then you'll start to be shocked, like, oh my God, 1,000 people listen to this show. And next thing you know, it's you got a show that's got 50, 60,000 views, and you're like, holy crap, like what happened? And you just got to keep doing you, and just put everything aside. Don't worry about, you really got to not worry about what people think. And that's really all it is, because people are, you're not going to please everybody, and you just got to do your own thing.
yeah, yeah. It's you don't do it to appease anyone. You just do it for yourself to explore and share. And who wants to jump in can, and who doesn't can jump out. Like it's as
Yeah.
simple as
Yeah.
that.
If you don't like it, don't listen. That's what I'll tell them. I'll leave them, they'll leave a comment or something. I'm like, or they'll criticize, how I'm answering, asking questions or something. And I'm like, okay, awesome. Where's your podcast?
Yeah.
Give me some pointers. I'll listen to yours, and or
No,
don't listen.
exactly.
Turn it off. I don't care.
Well, and then that's why you started your own, was because you didn't like how other people were asking the questions, right? So
Exactly. Exactly.
that's the beauty of the free world, like you have the option of listening to what you want or not listening to what you
Mm-hmm.
want.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, tell me, how did you get into all of this stuff, like ancient civilizations, UFOs, aliens? I know we're going to get into some other stuff in a bit, but where did that all begin for you?
I really didn't. I mean, growing up as kids, we always kind of had the idea that there was UFOs or aliens. I mean, obviously we grew up watching TV shows and sci-fi and all that kind of stuff. And I had an experience when I was 19 years old and had an experience. I think I felt like I was abducted. I think I was abducted. I was taken. And it was not a nice experience. It was a very horrible experience, and just kind of woke up the next day and went about my life. Like, oh, it's just a dream or whatever, and didn't really think. It's haunting in a way, but you just try not to think about it. You just kind of move on with your day, and whatever. It's just a dream. It seemed like a dream. It feels like a dream, and then, but you're curious. You start watching movies like Fire from the Sky or things like the Travis Walton thing, and you start to think like, I wonder what did happen or if something did happen, and you just uh the whole podcast scene broke out. I guess of course it all starts with Art Bell, Coast to Coast AM, back in the day, and that's what starts it, and then YouTube and internet and everything else kind of started coming out, and you just start listening, you start paying attention, and you start learning, and you start wanting to ask your own questions. It
Yeah.
just kind of gets the ball rolling. But that's what started it for me, I think, when I was 19.
Okay, so you think you were abducted at 19?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I was abducted. Yeah. And then they came back and they got me 20 years later, like almost literally to the month. It was 20 years. Yeah.
Really? What was that? What happened there?
It was a very brief experience. That wasn't one that wasn't a horrible, nasty experience. I was traumatized, I think, because I realized what was happening. I realized I was going again. So I think I was a little bit more concerned then about um it getting bad again. It didn't seem like a horrible experience. So, but I remember I woke up and I kind of freaked out, like, holy crap, what happened again? And I had blamed it on my wife because she left the window open, and I got up. I was like, that's how they got me. The window was open, and I slammed the window shut, and it turned out it was exactly 20 years to the day, and it was Tony Rodriguez who put that together. I
Oh,
mean, I don't know exactly if it was to the day, but it was 20 years that month. It was in October of 95 when I got taken the first time, and it was October of 2015
2015.
when they came again. And from what I understand, that's they have to do that like every 20 years to monitor how you're doing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so chances are, I mean, if they're still around or whatever, you hear all kinds of things like whether they're even allowed on this planet anymore. But if they are, then chances are 2035 in October, I'll probably be visited again.
Hmm. So, okay, what do you remember from the first one? Like, what is there in the memory right now?
I remember. I think what's the hardest, the easiest to remember was trying so hard to wake up. Um, because while it's happening, it's obviously not real. You're dreaming. I want to wake up, and you're trying so hard to wake up. It seems like for hours and hours and hours. And a dream doesn't last hours. And whenever I'm having a bad dream, I can easily wake myself up. It's not something I can't do. With this, I couldn't wake up. I remember there were I could see shadowy figures, but it was almost as if I had something like in my eyes or over my eyes, or to where it seemed like I was watching shadowy figures through a sheet. I have to cough.
No, go ahead. Yeah.
Excuse me. I'm so sorry. I don't know where the
No,
mute button is on this thing.
no, you're fine.
Um, and that was, I think, the hardest part was not being able to wake up. And then when I actually did wake up, it was like 2 hours past the time I was supposed to get up. It seemed, I had been in asleep for like 14 hours, and it just seemed like I didn't get any sleep at all. Like I was up all night exhausted. So whatever was going on, I wasn't getting very good rest. So,
Okay. So I know Tony's been on your show,
uh-huh.
and Tony's been on this show about 3 or 4 times, and I love Tony so much. He's such a good soul. Um, has he helped you with your memory recall in any way?
He kind of started the whole thing. I think if you go back and you watch the first show I did with Tony when we were talking about it, he kind of put it all together, and as he was putting it all together, it started hitting me what was happening. And I do a live show. It's mostly what we do live, and I was literally breaking down, kind of losing it on the live stream, and it totally derailed the entire interview. It's a fascinating one to watch, just to see how he breaks it all down, and then it's like, holy crap, like I did do a 20 and back. Like that's probably what happened, like that's probably what happened to me. And the some of the recall has been happening since. He's been helping me with recall since. He's got some good tips on being able to recall things and things you could do to help remember things that have happened. But it's strange the way it happens. If he explains to you how consciousness is like water in a 5-gallon bucket, you know what I mean? I don't know if he's explained it to you that way or not.
I don't know. Go ahead and just in case
So
it might
basically,
trigger, but even if it does, like my audience may not know.
all right. So basically, you have like a 5-gallon bucket is right here, your soul, your body, whatever, is like a 5-gallon bucket, and your consciousness is 5 gallons of water. What you can do is they could actually clone you, say, and they just take out some of that water from this bucket and dump into that bucket. So you'll have basically like a half a bucket of water in this body and half a bucket of water in that body, but they're still able to um, work independently of each other. And that's kind of what the way I understand it is that 20 years later, when they come back, they're actually returning that other that other part of your consciousness that they took the first time.
Oh,
That's
interesting.
what the 20 and back is. They basically just take, a few gallons of your consciousness, and use that in a clone or some other body or whatever. I mean, I don't, I haven't had a recall to where I've been in a mirror or a bathroom or anything. So I mean, for all I know, I was in a totally different body. But it's different. It's weird to think about it that way. How you could, how consciousness is kind of like water, and it makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well, okay, so I think if I remember correctly, when Tony was on the show, I don't know if they kept him in the same body type, like image, because is it said that like you can um meet up with people who may have been in the program and recognize one another if there's been that much of a desire to want to like remember like if I remember, I might be wrong, but if I remember correctly, I think Tony mentioned that on the show.
Okay. Apparently, there's an asteroid that's about to hit Russia.
Right now?
Yeah,
What?
yeah.
Which asteroid?
I don't know. They just discovered an asteroid today that was going to hit the planet, and now apparently it's coming right for Russia. It's they're I just it just came in that they're projecting it to hit Russia
When?
today.
Like today?
Yeah.
My goodness. You're not in Russia, right?
No, I'm not in Russia. It
Oh,
makes you wonder what it really is.
I'm telling you, I mean, obviously, like it's an asteroid, but I
Oh, we
really
don't know
feel
that.
like we're gonna have ET contact next year.
It's
Like it's all
coming.
it's all gonna come out.
It's coming.
Yeah. Okay, so when I was on your show,
Hmm.
you were asking me about different things. We were talking more about like healing and all of that.
Exactly. That's why I had you on.
Yeah. How has your personal healing journey been so far?
Uh, well, I mean, we could tell everybody I've been diagnosed with borderline personality disorder. It's a it's a strange thing, and it has to do a lot with abandonment, I guess. It's a you know it's a struggle, I guess, figuring out. And I mean, you always kind of have an idea, like maybe something's not quite right with yourself.
Hmm.
And then when you finally get all the pieces put together and you can see what it is, and you can, line it up with, yep, that's what it is. That's what I'm like. That's what I do. It's I don't know. I think it's it helps to know what's wrong, you know, because then you can work on fixing it. But then at the same time, it's like, crap, there's something wrong. Like everybody wants to be perfect and not have anything wrong with them. But, I mean, not everybody has it that way, I suppose. So, you just kind of deal with it and move on.
Yeah. So, okay, well, with that borderline personality disorder, I guess you go through these extreme waves of emotions and um, can come on erratically. How has your wife handled that? Like, how's that been for her?
You mean now that she knows about it, or the 10 years we've been married, her wondering what the fuck is wrong with me? Am I allowed to curse on the show?
Yes, you can.
uh,
I allow
you know
full
that
authentic expression here.
that poor girl, bless her heart. She's been through so much. I put her through hell. A lot of times. It's a it's a fear of abandonment thing, and a lot of times uh just the fear of abandonment is what, and then you'll fear it, so then you'll actually create the reasons why she'll want to be out the door. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So it's kind of it's I don't know, it's a weird thing. You should have her on and talk to her. So what's it like to be with Conflict Radio? She probably tell you some stories, but she's you know bless her heart. It's been a struggle for us. It has. you know
Okay, so when did it start exactly? Like, did that you remember like being that way? Have you always been that way, or?
looking back on it now, I haven't always been that way. It's hard to actually get a starting point. I mean, I've been able to trace it back to, I mean, basically, the first thing you think of, I mean, you go into where you kind of like you'll switch. You'll have you'll be totally fine, and then you'll go into you'll be really mad or angry about something. And I think looking back at like a temper tantrum, it's basically an adult having a temper tantrum.
Mhm.
And looking back, I could see like the first time I had done that, I think I was like 16 or 17 years old. And then you start to realize, like my father kind of took off when I was 2. I didn't meet him again until I was 20, and my mother died when I was uh 13. She had killed herself. So there's a lot of trauma there that I probably ignored and swept under the rug. And I grew up in foster homes and group homes and things like that, and I used to get beat up all the time as a growing up in foster homes and group homes. I was be robbed and beaten up and everything else. And I gotta take a drink.
Oh yeah.
I don't want to cough again. But so somebody had told me once. I think I was like 15 or 16 or whatever. One of these kids had told me, I'll never forget it. He said, you're too nice. What you need to do is just pretend you're a badass. Just pretend you know how to fight, and pretend you're a tough guy. nobody will ever know, and they won't call you out on it. That's what I do. And I was like, and I started thinking to myself, like, yeah, that's what I'll do. I'll just pretend I'm a tough guy. I'll pretend I'm a badass. And it worked. It worked. I didn't get beat up as much. I didn't get, I was part of the cool gang, in school, and not the nerdy kid. And but it working, it forced me to pretend to be this person that I wasn't, to avoid these, getting beat up or picked on or whatever. And I think that after 30 years of pretending you're something you're not, you're gonna be that. You're gonna be that.
Yeah.
So I think it is a lot to unpack with it, really. It's a struggle. It's about, and it's about creating those fractals, right? It's like like a leaf pattern when you're growing. I started the pattern of, oh, I'm a tough guy, or look at me, I'll kick your ass, blah blah blah, even though you can't, but you're now branching off into a whole nother thing. And I've managed to branch so far off into this direction that that's not even who I'm supposed to be or who I am. So it's trying to trace back and maybe go down a different path. And that's what I'm trying to do.
Well, it's very brave of you to share this with my audience, and I know it's not easy because I think when I was on your show, correct me if I'm wrong, but you kind of admitted it to your audience for the first time. Did
Yeah,
you
yeah, sure did. Yeah.
did you get any feedback or comments about that?
Nope.
No, it just
Nope.
okay, let's talk about that. How does that make you feel?
I don't know. I don't know. I felt like I was going to get somewhat, when you have, I'm upwards of about 100,000 subscribers, I think, between YouTube and Apple iTunes and Spreaker. And I think I've got 60,000 subscribers or 52 or something like that on YouTube. But my views and everything on Apple iTunes and Spreaker is just so much greater because it's conflict radio. It was never meant to be a video show. You know what I mean? It was just radio. And I always liked radio because I thought radio was better because you were able to imagine more with your
Mm,
mind what you were hearing. And I always thought that was the way to go. When you're talking like this, you're not really imagining things. And I kind of like the whole aspect of imagining. But yeah, it was a little disappointing not to have a single, not a single acknowledgement or anything. Nothing. Not on that show, not since then,
that's
you
so
know.
interesting because that's been something. How long have you been carrying that, knowing it, like that is something you're
It's only been about, I guess, like 3 months now that I've been diagnosed.
okay, okay.
So it's not something that I've been, holding on to for a very long time.
When you were diagnosed, was it kind of like a mixed bag, or was it like a sense of relief? Was it, um, what did it feel like for you?
Like I said, I think it's kind of a bag of relief because you have a way to, you can figure it out. I mean, it's like you're sick or you're ill and you can't, you don't know what's wrong with you. You can't work on curing it. You can't work on fixing it, or, at least having an idea of what you're dealing with. You know where to tackle, where to handle the issue.
Hmm.
And like I said, my wife could tell you that there's always been an issue, and she was actually shocked. She's surprised. She took psychology. She's like, I can't believe I missed it. But she was right there in the middle of it all. So,
Yeah, it's so
it's
hard to
it's
see it when
it's
you're in it.
yeah, yeah. So she's like, but it's all right there. She's like, I don't know how I missed it. So
Well,
it's kind of a relief. Yeah, it is.
yeah, I mean, having the trauma that you did, you had extreme trauma. Like, I mean, your father leaving you at 2, your mother um, killing herself at the age of 13. That's going to certainly leave a very, very dark opening in your soul of, I'm not worth sticking around for, like that's got to be what your inner child is likely um feeling. I've worked with clients who've had parents commit suicide and leave them, or attempt to commit suicide, and around the same age as where you were as well too.
Hmm.
And the the general feelings that continuously like keep coming up are like, what, I wasn't worth it, and
Yeah.
with borderline personality, there is that sense
Or it was
of,
my fault.
well,
What I
yeah,
do
what did I
wrong.
do
Yeah.
wrong? There's
Yeah.
something, yeah, exactly. But also this idea of you low sense of self, right? Like really deep unworthiness.
Yeah. Yeah. And not only that, but then you go into group homes and foster homes, and all of your immediate family, your aunts, uncles, everybody just they don't even, just don't they just don't care. So it's like a whole, like we always had this big family and would go, grandparents and aunts and uncles that we would see at Christmases and family reunions and stuff, and then something like that happens and you just don't even hear from them anymore. you know like the it's a, you're just not abandoned by your parents, you're abandoned by the entire family. It's a tough thing. And you ignore it for a while. You're forced to, because you're immediately in a foster home getting your butt kicked every day.
Hmm.
So you can't even deal with what you just dealt with because you're trying to survive tomorrow. So it's an interesting. It sucks. You're gonna get me all teary. It's a tough thing. It
Hmm.
is. You know.
I can't help but I keep being drawn back to the fact, for some reason, that your audience didn't know. One person commented on that. Um, and the reason why I'm being drawn to that is because that's telling me something, that we all hold a certain vibration or frequency within our field based on where we are in our own journey. If we're holding on to a lot of different pains, traumas, experiences that have, I don't want to say negatively molded us, because I think every experience has value,
Hmm.
whether it's a painful experience or a happy experience. But it really still speaks to the need for healing for you, because it's this idea of, don't I matter? I put out a show every week for the last 6, 7 years, five, however
Yeah.
long, right?
Yeah. 2 days a
And
week.
yeah, and so, and this isn't to put anything down on your audience or anything. It's not about that at all. It's more about, what I've found is that when we're holding a frequency, let's just say a frequency of deep unworthiness, okay?
Hmm.
You will consistently encounter people in your life that will be part of experiences that reinforce that unworthiness, until you find that worthiness within yourself. You no longer will then need to have those experiences, because you're no longer a frequency match for them to occur.
Well, that's why I had you on the show. Right? Trying to change the fractal a little bit, trying to change my path. I'm
Well,
reaching out for different guests. You know.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And so when it comes to, and for the audience, Michael's kind of like already um been open to where we're kind of going right now on the show, so I don't want anyone to think that I'm kind of dragging him into something coercely, or
Yeah.
secretly, tricking him into this. um when you I just want you to kind of think about what feelings that really brings up for you, in a sense that, doesn't anyone care about me?
So what's the question?
When you kind of when you think about, there's this big thing that you've finally discovered about yourself, okay? And it's a big deal for you. It means something. It's literally, in a way, part of your identity. It's part of you. and the borderline personality disorder to announce it, and then no one really kind of mention it, comment on it, say thanks for sharing that, or I had no idea, or I know someone who has this as well, like really appreciate you bringing it up, or whatever it might have been. Okay.
Hmm.
Does the, did there, was there a moment where you may have felt something along the lines of, doesn't anyone care? Or does anyone care? Because that's kind of what I'm picking up from your inner child right now.
Yeah, you know that the problem is that uh I put myself in a box from such a young age that you know it's 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 not different for me not to get no response, I suppose. It's just part of the same old.
Would you like a response?
You mean from my followers or whatever?
Anyone,
I
anyone.
don't know.
No,
I
it's
mean
not just about, listen, I'm just using your followers as a template right now.
yeah,
And
yeah,
your followers have done nothing wrong. This is
yeah,
not, it's
yeah.
not about this. That's not what this is about. It's more about what is created within your reality to keep reinforcing this sense of unworthiness that is deeply tied to borderline personality disorder.
I mean, I don't know. I don't want too much attention, I guess. Maybe a little. We could start out small. Uh, it's a I have a lot of I don't even think that really matters. I think that what matters is that I need to heal, and I need to try to fix the things that I've done wrong with the people that I care about that are around me, that are the closest to me. My wife, kids, whatever. They've had to deal with it too. It hasn't been easy for them. So there's a lot I need to work on, like with them, before I even worry about what other people think. And I think that's why I'm so comfortable coming on your show and talking to you, is that it doesn't really matter what anybody else thinks, especially people on the internet that I don't know. I mean, what matters most to me is what the people around me think. And I've gotten a lot of positive feedback from the people that are closest to me. So,
I completely agree with you. That's not where I was going with this.
okay.
It's, this isn't about like worrying about what other people think about you. It's about knowing that people actually are caring enough. So when, because for instance, on my channel, I've opened up about a lot of different things. And I've had several, like, people reach out or drop in the comments and say things. And then whether that's been positive or negative, you know, the thing about doing anything publicly is you really can't care about the positive comments or the negative comments, right? Because if you care about the positive comments, you're going to care a lot about the negative comments. And so it's not about that. It's more about the sense of connection that as you share, others are connecting with you and want to connect with you.
Hmm.
This idea that, no one's ever kind of, like, you've kind of been alone, or you've kind of been in more isolated kind of environments or felt more isolated. The reason why this is like, I know, I hear you when you say I need to fix my, like the people that I've done hurt, or what's gone on there. But ultimately, the best way you help them is through first helping yourself,
Yeah.
right? And so even when I ask you, wouldn't it be nice if someone cared? The part of you doesn't want to even think about that, because would it hurt to even open that door and
Yeah. It's
think about the
just
possibility?
Yeah, and that's part of BPD, right? Like, if then that would be people that I'd be letting in that could possibly hurt me later,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Mm-hmm.
So, I guess it's could be part of the walls that I have up. I would imagine I've got up some pretty powerful walls,
Sure. Sure.
you know?
Um,
I mean, I don't know. I mean, yeah, it would be nice, to get some positive feedback, I suppose. But you know, I mean, it's not something I'm used to. I guess I
Mm-hmm.
don't really, probably wouldn't know how to handle it.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Do you want to do a little exercise with me?
sure,
Are you open to wherever it might go? Like, I mean, if we do this and you're like, you know what, I don't want that to be on the air, well, I'll cut it.
okay,
Okay. All right, why don't we do a little inner child work?
all right,
Since you were so curious about the inner child work, and it'd be interesting to see because what we're looking at is um what are the roots of these, like, for instance, borderline personality disorder. It's interesting. You know what? Oh, you know what I want to say just before we go into this? You talked about how you liked radio because it allows you to use your imagination.
mm-hmm,
Well, the imagination is the sixth chakra, right?
uh-huh,
Imagination is the gift of the sixth chakra. And so the because we're talking about I mean borderline personality disorder, Uh, it's kind of grouped in with depression, um, uh, like all of those kinds of things in a way, right? So all of those belong to the sixth chakra to some degree. It's attached to other things, but like when we're talking about the mind and we're talking about the sixth chakra, we're talking about imagination, the ability to see, to visualize. Oh, there's something I'm getting with your inner child that you don't want to see. And that makes sense given like what you've shared. Like there's things that as you are like, oh, I'd be interested to recall certain things, but there's certain traumas, that when they're really deep, like we're not like we just don't want to see them again. We don't want to relive them, which is completely understandable. But some of your memory recall could be enhanced by doing inner child work with the little boy inside by comforting him and letting him know that you're there to be with him as he helps you remember what happened.
yeah. I was actually talking. Had a guest on the show today that I was talking to, and we actually got into this a little later on in the show, and I was telling her that I think that there's definitely something that happened between like 2 and 4 years old, that because it's like the only 2 years of my life that I really have no memory.
Okay.
So it's like something between 2 and 4 had happened that I completely blocked out. Like
Yeah.
from the time my father left when I was about 2 till I was about 4, when my mother had already married her second husband. Like there is something in between that stage that's completely blocked.
Okay.
And so
So,
I do
and
know that.
I mean, that happens very often with people who've undergone any kind of major trauma. I remember when my friend back in the early to mid 2000s, he's psychic. And when he was doing a reading, he's like, there's something that happened to you in your childhood. And he goes, every time I go to look into it, all I see is a black hole, like a black, like darkness. Like I can't get past it. Um, and it was something that I had put up intentionally so that I wouldn't remember and no one else could see as well. And it wasn't obviously until much later in life that that was revealed to me, but it wasn't revealed to me until I had done major inner child work and was in a place where I was ready to confront that trauma. So I want you to close your eyes.
All right.
Okay. And I want you to think about a place when you were a kid that you loved going to and that was safe. You always felt safe when you were there. And it was just a real like happy place. And if you can't think of one, if there's a place that was imaginary, that works as well. So is there anywhere that you can remember that you really liked going to?
Yeah, there's been a couple places. Yeah.
Okay. Choose one that you really kind of feel pulled towards right now.
All right.
Okay. And I want you as the adult now to stand there and I want you to take in your surroundings. So take note of the temperature of the air. What time of day is it around where you're in right now? Is it what time of year is it? Is it summer? Is it winter?
Yeah, I'll say it's summer here. Yeah.
Okay. And what are you seeing when you look around?
Well, it's a it's a like a fort that I built in the woods.
Oh, okay.
You know, like I was probably like I don't know, third grade, I guess.
Okay.
It was one of my favorite places. I'd go in there and nobody knew it was there.
Okay.
It had like set up these stone, walls around it, and it had, like the like the tree on Lost, like where they all got in the middle of it or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
There's just this little pathway you get into, but it was all blocked off, and I had set it up with like rock walls and rock seats and stuff, and it
Okay,
was
so I want you to just kind of run your hands over the stones and the wood that you made out of your like the fort that you made the fort with. And are you wearing any shoes? Are you barefoot?
no, yeah, I have shoes on. Yeah.
Okay. All right. And what is the temperature of the air right now? Can you feel that on your skin?
No, not really, but I mean it's probably like 80, I guess. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's summer.
Okay. Any breezes or is it pretty still?
It's still.
Okay. Just really continue to soak in the environment and really tune into all the different textures and colors and uh, especially the fort. And then I want you to turn your head to your left and I want you to see yourself as a young boy standing there. What age did you just appear as?
It's actually younger, probably like 7.
Okay. Take note of what the 7-year-old boy is wearing. Do you recognize any of the clothing?
No, but I mean I can imagine, clothing from what I've seen, like from old home movies and stuff.
Okay.
Like pair of
Hairstyle?
shorts and socks with blue stripes on the top of them.
Okay. All right. And do you remember the hairstyle of this boy?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Okay. So, what is the disposition of this boy? Look, is he looking at you? Is he noticing you're there?
No, I think he's just drawing on the ground with sticks.
Okay. Um, I want you to call out his name. You don't have to do it on like the speaker, just in your mind. I want you to call out his name and tell me if he turns towards you.
No.
Is he just continuing to do what he's doing or did he stop?
No, he stopped. I kind of lost it.
Okay. Close your eyes and just focus on the fort and look at the stones. Just kind of remember how much you loved being in that fort. It was kind of your safe place. No one else knew about it.
He doesn't know.
He doesn't know what.
He doesn't know. He doesn't know. He doesn't know he doesn't know what it is.
What the fort is, or
He doesn't know what's bothering him.
that's okay. We don't need to know what's bothering him just yet. We just want to connect with him. So I just want you to tell him, if you're seeing him again, to let him know how it feels to see him there right now at that age. And I want you to tell him something that you believe he needs to hear from you. What does he need to hear from you, from your
I
perspective?
told him to go love his mother.
To love his mother? What did he respond with? Did he respond at all?
No.
Why do you think you needed to tell him that?
I think I think I don't think he liked her. Just mad at her.
Mm-hmm. Why would he be mad at her?
She married this guy, beat up this kid. He beat him up all the time. They never stick up for him.
Can you go back in for just a brief moment? I want you to look at him again. And I want you to say to him, you didn't deserve to be beat up ever by anyone. No one deserves that. And let him know that no matter how much he endures, that you love him. No matter what he thinks of the world, tell him you are loved. And tell him one day you're going to meet a woman who loves you despite all of this.
Well, that got me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna mute this for a second.
Yep, go ahead. So, just for everyone who's listening, what we've just done is just a little reconnection exercise that I do with a lot of clients when we're doing inner child work. Um, we break down some of the barriers and we get access to even just a little bit of information. We got a little bit of information there. So, Michael, did he respond in any way, whether it was words or body movements, when you said the last few words to him? Or was there just nothing?
I think he was gone before I got everything out.
Okay.
I couldn't see.
Hmm. Which is not surprising considering abandonment is a major issue for you. So as soon as there's kind of love coming in, a common response for anyone, especially when there's been abandonment by parents, whether it's just been leaving or literally leaving this earth. There is a natural, no, I don't want to say it's a natural inclination, but there's a jerk reaction to push anyone who does want to love you away. So, through that exercise, is there anything that has come up for you that, even if it's a small piece of information or something that just kind of surfaced for you?
I remember the fort a lot better.
So, here's the good news.
I think obviously there was a reason why I was hiding there.
hmm
You know, it's probably why I
Whenever,
enjoyed being in there so much.
well, yeah, I mean, I loved being alone too. Whenever you're kind of when you're growing up as a kid and you realize that you're better off alone, you will do everything alone and enjoy it more or find ways to enjoy it because you know you're people can't hurt you when you're alone. Um, Here's what I would suggest for you, and this, like anyone listening in the audience, this is like super powerful work that you can do on your own, but connecting with your inner child. And he came to you at the age of 7, which is that in itself is also something to pay attention to because he's letting you know that around that age, something significant he wants you to look at. Okay, there's something that happened around that time frame that right now that's what he wants you to look at. It doesn't mean it's the most significant thing, it doesn't mean it's the least significant thing. It just means that's where you're being guided by your inner child to look right now. And by finding a place that feels safe, that feels like it's your space, to meet up with your inner child in that place and continue to try to reconnect with him, um, can can be a gateway for you and your healing journey to begin to build the right foundations of your own healing. So, whenever you're connecting with your inner child, for you or anyone else who's listening right now, you don't have to always have a conversation with them. It doesn't have to always be serious. In fact, let your inner child kind of set the tone, so to speak.
Hmm.
You could have gone over and just kind of went down on your knees and started like drawing on the ground yourself or commenting like, "Hey, what are you drawing?" Um, like you can ask them questions, but if they're not responding, then maybe it's like, "Oh, should we bring in something like, should we just go for a walk? Do you want to just keep drawing? Do you want to just sit here and do nothing? And I'll just sit here with you and do nothing." The reason why that's important, especially for anyone who's got worthiness issues, which is like pretty much all of us, right? But also like abandonment specifically, by you showing up and sitting with him, even if it means you just sit there with him, it's telling your inner child he's a priority, he's worth it, he means something to you. And that's one of the major wounds that by you doing that healing work will start to build a bridge back to the place where your emotions don't go all crazy, and it starts to also build a bridge for all of your important relationships right now in your life. Does that make sense?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Try to connect with them more.
Yeah, yeah. It's it's so important. Like, I mean, people think like this work is like, I don't know about this stuff, but I mean, we spend our whole life showing up for everyone else, but when we really make time for the version of ourselves that set the tone for our entire life and is holding all the keys to our subconscious patterns and our deepest unmet needs and all of that stuff, that really starts to shape the reality of your now in different ways. So, how do you how do you feel like given us going through that? Are you like, damn, sorry I asked?
Well, I mean, it's got to be done, right?
Yeah. I
So
mean, it's got to be done if you want things to be different.
yeah.
That's the thing. It doesn't have to be done if you want things to stay the same.
Well, I think it has to be done. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's just like a way to connect with your inner child. It's for me, it's been the most powerful way for me to bridge the gap between my now self to the version of me that went through all of the, you know, I'm not good enough unless I'm like busting my butt achieving stuff, like no one's paying attention to me. So my self-worth is built on what I can achieve or what I can do, all the different kinds of things. Um, and that then it allows things to shift so that you operate from a different space here and now. So,
It's tough stuff.
yeah, no, it is.
Yeah.
So let's just switch gears really quickly.
All right.
Um,
That's enough for today. No more crying.
no more crying. We're gonna leave it on a little bit of a different note, just so that you can exit this podcast not feeling completely emotionally drained and heavy. Have you ever
Yeah.
had any experience with ETs outside of what you think may be an abduction or anything else? Have you had any ET experiences?
No, I don't believe so. No, I have experiences. I think with like uh you know spirit guides and things like that. Like I've tried getting into uh I've connected a lot with beings in my dreams that I guess could be considered ETs, but I wouldn't consider them ETs. I think they're more friendly. I guess that I and that's kind of a mean thing to say, like ETs aren't friendly, but I think it was more spiritual than an extraterrestrial, if that makes
Yeah.
any sense,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Hmm.
or maybe different dimensional. All these questions. Just that's why I have a show,
Yeah.
right? Like what are they? You know, I suppose it could be ETs. I mean, we all could have experiences with ETs every day. Just going to the grocery store. I mean, we don't know.
Well, I've had ETs show up to me in non-corporeal form. So, I've had both where like I physically can see them, and also non-corporeal form. So like light orbs. Um,
Yeah, I haven't had that happen yet. I've been looking. I've been calling. I'm calling. I'm outside at night. I call to them. I let them know like I'm not scared.
mhm,
I'm ready. You know, show yourself or whatever. And not anything like that.
mhm.
Just to the ones I remember. And I could have had some, but I don't remember. Or maybe they've come to me in the dreams, and I've just assumed that they're a spirit guide or whatever. Or the ones I remember are the mean ones.
One of the reasons why doing the healing work is so cool for this kind of stuff is our biggest intuitive center is our gut, right?
Hmm.
And the gut is what houses our feelings, our emotions. That's the sacral chakra. And so as we start to heal more of our emotional wounds, and what's tied to the sacral chakra is certainly unworthiness, because it's where our abundance codes are. So when we start to do a lot of healing with that, we actually are opening ourselves up to stronger, more intuitive experiences. We're able to, ever since I've been doing this work, my ability to connect with beings in other dimensions, world, galaxies, um, visions. My pineal gland is opened up a lot more as a result. It's incredible how much is tied to. I know some people like, oh, if I meditate, like, and I just keep meditating. Yeah, I think you definitely, if you practice, you're definitely going to get stronger at that. But one of the fastest ways to do it is through the healing work. You'll definitely open up your ability to connect and make contact more readily and easily.
That'd be fun.
Yeah, everyone's like, it'll be fun until
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
13, 14 foot reptilian shows up.
Yeah, but you don't be scared because they're like, it's like any other creature, they'll pick up on your fear and you don't want to be, they'll respect you, especially if it's a tall reptilian, they'll respect you more if you're not afraid.
Well, here's the thing. It's if you are afraid, you have to know that whatever you've called in is a reflection of you. So, are you afraid of looking at something within yourself? That's what I've experienced. So whenever I've done any kind of work, if I know I'm going to be connecting with the realms, okay, and I'm going to be going and doing deeper work, I am like whatever I'm going to be connecting with. I always like obviously my intention is not to connect with that. But I know that when you're opening yourself up to things, you don't always have control over what you could be showing up. And by not giving it the energy of fear, which is certainly a food source, then it's just like a food frenzy.
Mm.
But it's not because you shouldn't be scared, but more so of like, well, let me just be curious and just see what this is. But maybe that's not the right way to say it as I say that out loud because you don't necessarily know what you're interacting with at times, but it's more so of trusting that it's okay. No matter what it is, you're okay. And when you're holding that belief that you're okay, then it's not going to interact with you in the way that um, would be more of a negative impact. So, um, have you had any experiences with entities like demons or shadow people or anything of that nature?
Yeah, we had a shadow being in the house here once that I saw, and it, of course, always in the corner,
Mm-hmm.
right? The corner of your peripheral. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, there's definitely something going on with my second bedroom here.
Okay.
I have a bedroom. The closet there's something going on with the closet. I think the kid that used to live here before us, I think he hid in the closet. My wife picks up on it too. There's something that happened in that closet or something in the closet in there. And every once in a while we'll see a shadow being coming out of that room, going across the hall into the bathroom,
Oh, okay.
and then back. Yeah. And there's
Has it ever
definitely something.
interacted with you in any way other than just what you've witnessed?
No, no. But I'm never in that room.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I mean, I'm in there, obviously, it's in my house, but I
Yeah.
mean, I never spend any time in there. I go in there, it's like our closet room,
Mm-hmm.
you know, every, everybody has a closet room, right?
When I first started this podcast, one of my co-hosts that was on the show, the skeptic guy, the reason why he was so intrigued was because he would sometimes experience sleep paralysis. And he remembers seeing like it was like a shadow person that wore like a top hat. Um,
Yeah. Hat
yeah,
man, right?
yeah. And so there was like, while on one hand, he was like, you guys are out there, there was a part of him was like, but I know some of this stuff is real. So um, that can be really crazy. Have you ever had sleep paralysis before?
I don't think so, but it's what my wife says when I tell her about the alien abduction. She says that that's sleep paralysis, but then it only happened twice, and they happen to be exactly 20 years apart.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you know,
I mean, it could be both. It could be like the sleep paralysis comes because you're like being taken, you know?
yeah, yeah. Have you ever had the feeling that, like while you're laying in bed that there's a cat walking on the bed and
No, but
there's no cat there?
I know so many people. I've had friends who like have said that to me. I've never experienced that
Yeah. I
before.
mean, you imagine it being a cat because of the way it walks, but I mean, it could be anything. I mean, it could be a little dog or whatever. But I mean, I'm just saying, like something's walking on the bed, but there's nothing there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that happens.
So, okay. Now tell me, just like to finish off, have you been sensing, and I don't know, maybe this has been something that's come up on your show through your guests, maybe even through the comments of people who listen to your show, which again is Conflict Radio. Everyone go listen to it. Um, have you been getting any sense that there is an uptick in the veil getting very, very thin right now, like just in the last couple of months?
I think it's because we're ascending.
Do you, so,
It's not getting thinner. We're
mhm.
getting we're getting more into it as we're eventually going to go through it.
Interesting. Because when I think of ascension, I don't necessarily think it's a movement up or through something. It's more of an embodiment of the higher self in this now. So, and that it means that you're able to pierce through different dimensions and see things that you haven't been able to see here before. So it's really opening up the spectrum, the visual spectrum of what we're used to seeing. And I have noticed, and I've actually so I have a community called Alchemy, and people in there have been saying that they've been getting these experiences as well lately, where I have been seeing visions as if I was actually maybe even on mushrooms, but I'm not. Like I'm completely sober.
Hmm.
And I'm seeing like waves in my house. Like it's not like it's winter here. It's not hot outside. So, but I'm seeing almost like rainbow infused lights, movements. I've seen it's almost like there's a fan above me moving the energy and like a fan. Like
Yeah,
it
yeah,
feels like the energy's been moving, and I've been seeing things. I've seen a silver a couple of different silver balls that like were kind of like it looked like they were attached through maybe a string. The balls were maybe about like that big, silverish light, and they would go down this door. Like I remember just looking at I was kind of like looking I was I don't know, looking at something, and then I saw them go down my door like a slinky, almost like kind of going over them, and I'm just like, what was that? And then I'm constantly seeing stuff now, like sometimes out of the corner of my eye, and sometimes my vision is changing where I'll literally maybe just be watching a TV show, and then all of a sudden like everything around me is going through these waves of energy and different lights, and I'm seeing all these different kind of patterns emerging in the field around me, and it's like it's weird, and it's happening more and more frequently just in the last, I want to say, since October.
do you think it's because our brains are evolving and we're using more of our brain?
I
Therefore,
don't know if I'm using more of my brain.
we're graduating. We're graduating from 3D into 4 5D. Thus, we'll be able to see more of ourselves, more of the real world around us.
Well, I think it's I believe that all of us are on our own individual journey, right? And so some of
Hmm.
us are further along than others
Oh
at
yeah.
different stages.
Oh yeah.
But I also believe that there is a collective impact because I believe that the sun is deeply impacting us right now, and I
Yeah.
feel like there's been so many solar flares and of that nature. And of course, anytime maybe even have a solar storm that starts to come like this way to Earth, like it starts to bring in all this new information, which I believe is causing some sort of upgrade within our field of awareness and just how we operate here. And so I feel like there's been an uptick in that, and that, yeah, I do think that it's a mixture of a few different things. I don't think it's just one thing, but certainly as we are moving through our own unique challenges to our personal journeys, as well as the unique challenges of just living here on Earth and what's kind of going on in our world right now, that those, as we are ready to face those challenges and move through them in a way that is allowing us to grow stronger and evolve, that is opening up access to other things that are available to us that we didn't know. And so I think, yeah, our sensories, like what we use as our senses, are now picking up on different information because there's an attunement going on within us from a variety of different things. I don't think it's just one thing, but I do feel like the sun plays a big role in that.
I think it has to do with the photons. But when the sun's in peak, uh, I guess display like it is right now, the Earth gets bombarded with more protons, and they're interdimensional. So I think that's what's happening. You know,
Hmm.
it's the same reason why a lot of people are starting to see like what they call demon face. Have you heard about that? The demon face syndrome.
No. Oh, enlighten me.
Apparently there's a new disorder. You Google it when we're done with this. All you
No,
people
wait, I'm gonna Google it right now. Talk
Google
about
it because
demon face syndrome.
yeah, it's people that are all of a sudden seeing different people look and they look like demons.
Demon
Not
face
everybody,
syndrome,
just
also known as prosopometamorphosis. Jeez. PMO for short. What the heck? Prosopometamorphosia? I, oh my God. Like you just get it's called a
yeah.
rare brain disorder. I get a brain disorder just trying
Yeah,
to pronounce that.
it's a rare brain disorder where certain people you see actually look like demons.
Oh, really?
You know, I think it's the sun that's actually letting us see their real form, so they have to come up with some kind of brain disorder that to explain it away.
Huh.
More and more people are getting this brain disorder.
Oh, I didn't know about this. Oh, I love it when I learn something new from one of my guests.
That's conflict radio. Tune in.
Oh my God, I'm sure I'm sure a lot of people in my audience have known about it. But wow, so
It's
then I
like
love
the
how
way
when
I
they
look
don't
at it.
know how to explain something, they'll just like it's a rare brain disorder.
Yeah, it's interesting. The way I look at it is like you know that movie They Live, like where the guy puts his glasses on and off. You know, we're starting to see it without the glasses.
Yes, yes. Well, I mean, here's the thing, and I was just having this conversation with a client earlier today. Our ability to change this world comes from our ability to level up in our consciousness levels and hold out those states of consciousness, those higher states of consciousness for longer periods of time. The everything here in the quantum field works algorithmically, meaning, or not algorithmically, sorry, logarithmically. And that means that it's not just a simple like, okay, 5 times 5 is 25. Like, so that's how it works. It's like to the power of something
Mhm.
more. So 10 or something like that. And so when you start holding higher states of consciousness for longer periods of time because you've been doing your work, doing your healing, working on the things of your own evolution, you are literally, I don't want to say you're forcing, but it's almost like you're impacting the the consciousness level of those who are in the lower fields to somehow, like, their consciousness starts to rise enough while you're holding that state to see something that maybe they haven't seen before, to awaken in just a little bit of a way, to maybe go out of fear for a moment and have enough courage to face something. Like, that is the impact, and you can impact hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people, depending on what state of consciousness you're holding for longer periods of time. And I think so many of us have been doing that work because I am just seeing the awakening phase like go off, pop off. Like it's just popping off now, like left, right, and center. Like the things that are now in the mainstream vernacular are just like blowing my mind, considering like I've been into this stuff since the 90s. And so it's like, like the early 90s, where I'm like, wow, people are just having normal conversations about this, and like the way the words that they're using is now just like it's like everyday stuff that you talk about. I don't know, energy and quantum, anything quantum is the same as saying, oh, like pour me a glass of milk, like it's the same energy now. So as we
We're
do that
becoming
work,
harder to fool.
yeah, no, it's just everyone's on this. There's a deep, deep awakening. And I think 2025 is going to be one for the books. I really do. I feel like this is going to be the kickoff year. I mean, if you thought that a lot of people woke up in 2020, I think 2025 is going to blow that one out of the water because it's going to be done in a different way. Thank
We're
God.
in for a fun ride.
Yeah. So, Michael, let everyone know where they can find you, what your handles are, and why they should listen to Conflict Radio.
Well, I mean, Conflict Radio is awesome. We cover all types of different stuff. We've been on we've been obviously talking a lot about the 20 and back and the Galactic Federation right now, but there's a lot of stuff. We always have different guests on and different things to talk about, black eyed kids or quantum healing. All kinds of different things. It's just Conflict Radio. You can find me on YouTube, X, Facebook, Conflict Radio Network. You can look up Michael Conflict on Facebook, or Conflict Radio on X, Conflict Radio on YouTube, Conflict Radio on Apple, iTunes, Spreaker. Just Google Conflict Radio.
Okay, awesome.
It's all right on the top.
Well,
No
thank you.
competition.
I'm going to leave those links for everyone in the show notes. And thanks again, Michael, for coming on my show. It was a pleasure to be on yours, and it was a pleasure to have you here.
Yeah, we got to do this again, right? You just
I
can't leave me
know.
there.
I know. Well, thanks for being brave. And I know, like, this was you, like, just so the audience knows, Michael kind of asked for this. Like, he was really open to
Yeah.
exploring that. So, thank you for being brave enough to do that for the audience. I'm sure there are people out there who that really helped, and
If they
maybe
don't want to
inspired.
listen, they could turn it off.
Yeah, exactly. And if they didn't want to, yeah, turn it off. It's all right. It's a free country, free
Yep,
universe.
that's it.
Literally, it's a free will universe.
That's it.
So to everyone else, I love you guys. Thanks so much for tuning in. And I believe next week I will have Consuelo on for our 2025 predictions. So make sure you tune into that. Have a wonderful week, and I will see you guys really soon. Thanks again for joining me for another show on the Enlighten Up podcast. I love you guys so much for all of your continued support. So remember to raise your vibe, find your tribe, and be open to the infinite possibilities held in the mysteries that surround us all. Thanks again for sharing the show with your family and friends. And if you're new to the show and you need to find out more information about me, please head on over to my website, NicoleFrolick.com, where you can join my newsletter. And please follow me on Instagram, Telegram, and YouTube. Keep your light bright, and I'll see you next week.